Well, I always remember from a very early age, about 12 years of age, I wanted to be actually Eamon Andrews, if you want to know, because Eamon Andrews was a very good friend of my older brother. They were school pals together on the South Circular Road, and they went to Sing Street together and all of that. And around that time, or perhaps a little older, I can't very well clearly remember, but I know I was in my early teens. Eamon had just started not only boxing, but doing boxing commentaries for Radio Byrne. And he'd started to make the breakthrough into broadcasting. And I decided that that is what I wanted to do. And I really never remember wanting to be particularly anything else other than perhaps a photographer or an airline pilot, which came much later. But even earlier on, at around 15 or 16, I knew that I wanted to broadcast in some way, although I'd never even heard of television, let alone seen television at that stage. And I started to do things then to get me into that groove. I joined various drama groups, the Dublin Shakespeare Society, the National Theatre Group, and I did a bit of acting, and I started to compare local variety concerts, acting as MC. I never particularly wanted to be an actor. I wanted to be able to tell a few gags and to introduce people and to be generally master of ceremonies and compere, and that's what I started to do.
Well, did you find it difficult at first, or did it come to you naturally?
Not particularly. I never found it greatly difficult to get up in front of people and talk to them and introduce other people and generally control things. And it was much later on then that I started auditioning seriously for Radio Byrne and was turned down by everybody in sight over a long number of years. And eventually I got into broadcasting through commercial radio, through sponsored programs. And I was asked at one time by Desmond O'Kennedy of O'Kennedy Brindley Advertising to fill in for Pat Lade, who was the commercial reader on the Ernie Chocolates program. And I was asked to fill in, reading the commercial on that for 1 week because Pat was out on tour with the Abbey Theatre and couldn't turn up for the recording. And so I did, and something like 11 years later, I was still doing the Ernie program and a lot of other programs besides.
Well, doing all those programs, did you become very disciplined in your work as a result, from an early age?
Well, I always think that one of the main reasons I got into Radio Byrne and got in well and truly was that I was totally and completely reliable. And I didn't drink in those days, and I hadn't very much other interest, and I was totally dedicated to the job. And so if I promised to have a program ready on Tuesday morning at 7:30 in the morning, then come hell or high water, no matter what happened, I would have it on that person's desk ready. And I built up a reputation for being absolutely punctual, absolutely sober, absolutely available. I was the one, when I started doing continuity announcing and that sort of thing in Radio Byrne, I was always the one who was there at bank holiday weekends, Christmas weekends, during the summer holidays, when everybody else wanted to get away and enjoy themselves. I was always there and available and could turn up at 15 minutes notice. It was really a question of, you know, have script, will travel. Just call, phone, all right, I'll be there.
And you haven't changed since. How do you actually see your role as a broadcaster?
Do you mean in connection with the Late Late Show or the radio program or what?
In general, overall, like...
Well, I
Do
consider
you have a
that
certain aim every time you do a show or something to achieve, or...?
I don't think so. I don't think so. I think I look upon myself as a pro broadcaster performing a particular function. I don't believe that I have any great talent, whatever. I think that what Maureen Potter has is talent, and what Jack Cruz, Lord rest him, had was talent, and what Michael McLeamore and Hilton Edwards had was talent, and what a whole host of other people have is talent. I think what people doing my particular line of work have is a facility, and it's just a fairly straightforward facility for appearing to be ourselves on radio and television and to act as a conduit for other people's opinions and views and arguments and discourses. And whether you're talking about the radio program or the Late Late Show, that is what I see my function as. Just a pro traveling broadcaster doing that kind of thing.
Radio is your first love, is that right?
Well, radio, insofar as I started on radio, yes, radio would be described as my first love, but it's only because radio is so direct now and straightforward, in that you don't have this plethora of equipment and cameras and microphones and lights and so on getting between you and the audience. If you were to ask me, I think I would have to say that sitting in a radio studio of a morning and having people available to you on the telephone, a comparatively simple exercise to get them on the air. I think it is far more direct and far more straightforward and far more simple. And it still leaves listeners room to exercise their imagination, as we all used to do before the days of television, listening to a radio play or listening to a discussion or listening to general things happening on a radio program. You could use your own imagination to figure out what those people looked like or what that situation was like or what the thing looked like, and I think that helps. I think also that the fact that you can talk to people on the radio, on the telephone, very, very simply and very directly, while they sit in their own parlour or in their own hallway or in their own kitchen talking to you, it makes them feel greatly at home.